This video will speak about fat people, alcoholics, crack addicts, drug addicts, smokers. You know, it's in a way just kind of like analyzing the way society is and the way that they treat people. I noticed that a lot of people talk like bad about fat people. I mean, of course, including myself in videos, you know, and it's just kind of like sometimes it's hard not to jump in the bandwagon and just start talking trash about fat people, you know, and just be like making fun of them, making fun of people because they're fat and stuff, you know. But at the same time, you know, when I think about it, like, why are we making fun of them so much? Like, why do we talk so much trash about them? Like, does it make us feel better about ourselves? I mean, that's probably what it does. Makes people feel better about themselves, and they'd be like, well, you know, my life might be miserable, but at least I'm not fat. You know, that's probably what they think, you know. And it's like, is it right to talk shit and talk bad about fat people? You know, obviously, the right thing to do is just don't talk shit about anybody, right? Just don't talk shit about nobody. I mean, that's like, supposedly that's supposed to be the best thing to do. Just don't disrespect nobody. Just don't talk shit about anybody. But is that really going to happen? I mean, but at the same time, it's like, is that truly the right way? So if we don't talk shit about anybody, so should we not talk bad about, like, gangbangers that, like, you know, do a bunch of, like, property damage and graffiti, and they litter, and then they stand around the corner selling drugs, and they pimp prostitutes, they sell crack and sell weed, and they sell, like, drugs to people, they shoot people, and then they should we not talk trash about gangbangers? Should we not talk trash about, like, drug addicts? Should we not talk trash about, you know, child molesters? Because that's a big one. That's what everybody talks trash about all the time, is child molesters. They absolutely hate child molesters. Like, that's like the number one thing people run to in order to, like, convince somebody that this person's not a good person. He's a child molester. I mean, that's the absolute thing that they run to. Or should we not talk trash about murderers and killers, like Jeffrey Dahmer, or like this Craigslist killer? Should we not talk trash about rapists? You know, I mean, I've done a lot of trash talking about the fighters, the MMA fighters and stuff like that, but is that wrong? Should I not talk trash about them? You know, and a lot of people talk trash about gay people, right? And that's against the law, you know, according to, like, workplace laws. But as far as, like, freedom of expression on the streets, that's not against the law. You can't put somebody in jail because he called you a faggot or something. You can't do that. But if you're at work and he calls you a faggot, then yeah, you know, then he might lose his job, right? But is it right to talk trash about people that are gay? To me, I don't think it's right, because they're not hurting anybody. It's just their sexual preference. Like, what they prefer to do sexually has nothing to do with anybody's business. So why why do they deserve to be bashed on? So I don't believe they should be bashed on or spoken about in a negative way. But it's not about what I believe, it's about what actually occurs out here in the society. And what actually occurs out here in society? Well, people talk trash about fat people all the time. Now, is that right? Now, my way of thinking is kind of similar to being gay. Like, they're not hurting anybody. They're only hurting themselves. They're not hurting other people. I mean, they just enjoy food a lot. And what is really that wrong with enjoying food so much? And they like to eat in excess. Like, when they get bored, they eat. and they just like to eat. So what is wrong with liking to eat? Now, to me, being fat is similar to being greedy. Somebody that just loves money, and all he cares about is money. All he does is just like, he lives and dies for money. He like, money is his life. Like, he's always just thinking about money. And there's almost everybody out there is like that. And that's very similar to being fat to me. Like, a fat person is always thinking about food. All they do is eat. All they do is think about food. And then there's the greedy person. All he does is think about money. All he cares about is money. That's all he wants. But then the greedy people that love money, they're not frowned upon. They're like, they're looked up to. But then fat people are frowned upon. They're not looked up to. So to me, that's kind of a contradiction there. It's like, to me, it's the same thing. If you're greedy for money, it's the same thing as being fat. So basically, imagine if like somebody is just rolling around in a Lexus or a Mercedes, and then you look at that and then you hate them, or you talk trash about them, you make fun of them for having a nice car. Instead of like praising them and like respecting them, you make fun of them. And that's kind of how I see fat people are like. It's like, you're not praising them, you're frowning upon them. But it's almost similar to the guy that has a lot of money, and he's basically showing his excess money by getting all these like crazy ass gadgets. And then you look at him and you're like, imagine if the society looked at all the rich people that had like nice cars, and they looked at them and then just basically like were disgusted. Imagine if like people that are wearing like really nice clothes, nice suits, people did not respect them, but they were disgusted by them. Like kind of how people are disgusted by fat people. That to me is, they go hand in hand. It's like the same thing. And you know, go to Africa, some parts of Africa, they actually see fat women to be like luxury. They see that they value fat women. They want fat women because that to them shows luxury. And it is luxury. It shows that, hey, you know, we have so much money, that's why we're fat. We got so much money, and we have so much money to buy food, and we're living it good. We don't got nothing to worry about. We could just eat all day. We're good. And that shows luxury. Like, America is so fat because America has a lot of money. But you go to Ethiopia, you go to Africa, everybody's all skin and bones because they don't got no money. So being fat is basically like having a lot of money. And it's just like a contradiction that I see in society, that people look up to people that have a lot of money, but then they don't look up to people that are fat. It doesn't make sense. If you look up to the people that have money, then you should also look up to the people that are fat, because those are the people that have money too. I mean, they're basically showing the money they have by having a big body, a fat body. You know, so it's just kind of like a contradiction in the way the society, the culture is. Now, is it right to talk trash about, to put down people that are fat? Like I said, it's similar to me. It's similar to like being gay. Like, they're not hurting anybody, so why are we making fun of them? You know what I'm saying? But I talk trash about the MMA fighters. I talk trash about the BJJ, blowjob jiu-jitsu thing, because they're hurting people. Point blank. You see right before your eyes. On national television, they're beating the hell out of people, and like, they're getting praised. I'm like, no, you know, I'm going to talk trash about that. Because they deserve it. You know, just like Jeffrey Dahmer, you know, he killed a bunch of people. Are we supposed to praise him because he killed a bunch of people? No, we're supposed to like talk shit about him. So to discourage this type of behavior. Imagine if we praised Jeffrey Dahmer and then we made him like into a king, and then we gave him all his money and we put him all over the billboards and we put him all these magazines, and we have little kids look up to him and stuff like that. Imagine if we did that. No, we don't do that. We talk trash about him. We put him in jail. We you know, the whole world's against them. That's how I see that competition fighters, they should not be praised. They should be looked at as criminals. They should be treated as criminals. They should not be praised. They're not basketball players. Okay? They're not tennis players. They're not baseball players. They're not football players. I mean, they are people that are hurting, like destroying, putting people in hospitals. They're like killers. I see that they deserve to have a lot of shit talking coming their way, because to me, they're like criminals. They should not be encouraged to, to engage in this type of behavior. But that's my point of view. But what about alcoholics? Do we deserve to, do they deserve to be, to be talked about in a negative way? Do they deserve shit talking? Well, if they're just drinking their own lives away, they're not hurting other people. But if they become violent with this alcohol abuse, like, they start beating up on the kids, beating up on their friends, beating up on the wife, or beating up on whoever, then yeah, that's not good. They're hurting other people, not just hurting themselves anymore. And what else? If they start drinking and driving, and they start driving the car and they end up killing people, then yeah, that's not good. They start hurting other people. So it depends. Alcoholics, drug addicts, crack addicts. Should we not talk trash about crack addicts? But if crack addicts are only taking crack and just destroying their own lives, okay, that's on them. But if they start robbing people because they need money to buy more crack, they start committing all these serious crimes because they need more money to buy more crack, then that's a huge problem. And they need to be taught about negatively to discourage that type of behavior. What about smokers? Well, smokers, they're just destroying their own health. But they start smoking inside, and then now they're making everybody else inhale that smoke with them, and then they kill the people around them. They're basically making the people around them die earlier because they're smoking. Then yeah, they should be taught about as well. But when it comes to like gay sex and stuff like that, who are they hurting? That's just something that's supposed to be occurring privately, and it's nobody's business. They're not hurting nobody. So they shouldn't be talked about. And as far as fat people are concerned, who are they hurting? So I really think that the fat people, they shouldn't be talked about negatively so much. But hey, because so many people do it, it's hard not to jump in the bandwagon and be infected with this way of, this way of communication, and just jumping on the bandwagon and talking trash about people. And that's what happens with racism. Say you got a bunch of race Nazis that they just talking shit about all the blacks, and then all the whites that are Nazis or whatever, they jump into the bandwagon and start talking trash as well. Until the law stepped in and said, hey, you know what? No, you can't do that no more. We're not supporting that anymore. You guys got to stop it. So the law protects certain classes of people. They'll say, hey, you can't talk shit about a person's race. You can't talk shit about his sexual orientation. You can't talk shit about his national origin. You can't talk shit about his disability. You can't talk shit about his gender. I mean, they'll come in to stop certain things, but they don't have a law against talking shit about fat people. So people will be like, oh, can't talk shit about his race. Can't talk shit about his sexual orientation. So I just talk shit about him being fat. And then they just go riding on that. But is that right? Like I said, ideally, we should not talk shit about anybody. We should be respecting everybody. But at the same time, should we be respecting the killers, the fighters, the Jeffrey Dahmers, the Adolf Hitlers, the drug addicts, the crack addicts, the drunk drivers? Should we be respecting criminals? We got to think about this. Because if we don't talk trash about anybody, then how are we supposed to influence the society to make better decisions? A lot of times people will change their path in life simply because they don't want to get talked about in a negative way. Even if something as simple as wearing the color pink. If everybody says, you look like a fruitcake, then people don't want to wear it no more. I don't want to wear this because I don't want people making fun of me. Something as simple as that. But if you tell a bunch of people, hey, say they like to watch dog fighting, and then nobody says anything about it, nobody talks trash about it, then everybody's doing it, but is that right? No, it's not. So they're like, you know what? Dog fighting's not right. If you watch that stuff, you're a bad person. And people are like, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to watch anymore. So that just shows like the power of like public scrutiny, or like the power of people's expression of what they believe is right and what they believe is wrong. If nobody talks shit about child molester shit, I guarantee you there'll be a bunch of men out there 30, 40 years old having sex with like 10-year-olds and shit. But they talk hella shit about the pedophiles, so they be like, this is not right, you guys are freaking sick perverts, you guys deserve to be in jail. So now everybody's like, oh, no, we're not going to do that. So it is very, very powerful when we decide as people what we approve of and what we don't. So basically, if we keep talking trash about fat people, it might lead some fat people to commit suicide, but will also lead a lot of fat people to exercise. So rather than committing suicide, they exercise, and then they're no longer fat anymore, or they still don't eat as much anymore. They don't eat as much anymore, and then they exercise and they get skinny and they're not fat anymore. So actually talking trash about them could actually benefit them. But as I stated, it's something that we got to think about. Should we be talking trash about people? As I stated, if we don't talk trash about people, then how are people supposed to determine the path? Because the law in itself is essentially talking shit. The law says, hey, it's not cool for you to be a murderer. We're going to put you in jail because you killed somebody. So the law is like setting standards. That's basically what the law is doing. Setting standards. And basically we the people are the ones that create the law. These man-made laws. So we set the standard. We say dog fight is not cool, so we don't accept that. It's not cool to do that. You're an idiot if you do dog fighting and you promote it. So it's not against the law to be fat. It's against the law to smoke crack though. So they're saying, you're not cool if you smoke crack, you go to jail. But it's not against the law to smoke cigarettes. But they've made ordinances in certain cities, even in Chicago, where you're not allowed to smoke cigarettes indoors. So there's a law against that. And there's a law against drinking and driving. You're not allowed to drink and drive. That's not cool. So the law in itself is basically the shit talking. So whether or not you believe in shit talking or not, it's still happening. The law is already criticizing. In a way, the law criticizes our lives and how we live. So when anybody talks shit about other people when it comes to like being fat or being gay or whatever the case may be, they are stepping in and criticizing other people's lives and how they live, and they're trying to dictate and determine what is a better way of living. Everybody has their opinion on what is a better way of living. And then the ultimate is the law that steps in and says, no, you guys have to live this way. Now the law can be corrupted. And it is corrupted. And even in the past, they had laws that were promoting racism. They had laws that said, hey, you know what? If you're black, you can't sit here. If you're black, you can't go in this bathroom. The fuck is that? So that law right there clearly shows the deficiencies of man-made laws. Because man-made laws are made by people, and people are corrupted. Politicians are corrupted. And the laws have a lot of flaws. And And the ultimate way is the way of nature that goes beyond man-made laws. But we live in a society where we don't have absolute freedom. You know, we have to follow the rules and regulations of the society. And then we also have to determine for ourselves what is the true way. What is the true way? Now, I don't necessarily enjoy talking trash about people, but as I stated, sometimes talking trash about people actually encourages a better society. Basically, talking trash is like, sometimes it's like speaking up. And speaking up against what's wrong. In a way, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, they're talking trash. Like, hey, you know what? What you guys are enforcing, what you guys believe in is bullshit. And that's not the right way. This is the right way. And they stood up. They spoke against racism in order to help, in order to attempt to make a better world, to promote a better world. So I say that talking trash is not necessarily a bad thing. But we need to determine what we're going to decide to talk trash about. You know, what we are going to decide to encourage and disapprove of. And it's easier said than done to just say, oh, you know, respect everybody, don't talk bad about anybody. It's easier said than done. Say somebody raped your mom. Are you not going to talk bad about them? Say somebody just murdered your wife, murdered your children. You're not going to talk bad about them? I mean, it's easier said than done. Respect everybody. Don't talk trash about anybody. I don't necessarily think that's the right way of dealing with things. So, that's my view on it.